We talked in a previous video some of the benefits of building a single page website. There's also the downfalls of the content speed, but they're kind of nice to keep users on one page. So in order to build that, what we want to do is build a menu that if I click on type, it will jump down to that section of the page. If I click on history, it'll jump down to that section of the page. And the way we do that is using something called fragmented link identifiers, okay? So inside of my H2 here, I have an attribute applied called types, something I made up, okay? And to link to that section of the page, I'm going to go up here and I'm going to type out index.html because that's the file I want to go to, hashtag types, and I can just directly put that link there. And so when I click on types, you see how it jumped down there. Now I've got a fixed menu, so it's jumping that to the top. I should probably fix my menu so it doesn't do that. But I think you guys get the idea. Let's do that again. And rather than going to types, let's go to history. And I have an ID down at the bottom that I put in earlier, right here to history. Okay, I'll refresh it. I'll click history. And now it's brought me down to this section of the page. I hit type, and even though I can't see it, it is right there, right behind my menu that's hiding it. I should probably build something in there to push it down a little bit. And we can go back to home if we want to as well. So they're just ways to jump to different sections of the page very quickly. You've probably seen on Wikipedia, let's go look up monkeys, their little content panel here, right? It's the same thing. If I want to see monkeys in space, I click on it, and you can see up here it's going to the URL, hashtag, the ID, and if I right click on this and look at it in the inspector, I can see that the ID in space is there. So you can also jump to pages. I could also take that link and I could put it on my page, and it would feed that in, go to that page, and specifically to that section of the page. And so you can quickly jump to sections of the page if you want to link that way as well. But again, it just kind of helps out with single page navigation. Now, you've probably seen those that scroll down for you slowly while you're jumping around a single page. That's done with some JavaScript or jQuery or something like that. And so that's a little bit more complex for where we're at right now. But just think if you want to look for one page JavaScript scrolling something, I'm sure you could find a tutorial to show you that. Another type of thing that we often see on one page websites is what's called parallax scrolling. And although this is not true parallax scrolling, it looks kind of like parallax scrolling. And you can see how we have these different images and they're all staying fixed. And we've shown you that somewhat before. And the way that that's accomplished is by taking that background image and applying a background attachment fixed to that. If I was to go in to that fixed and change that to something else, let's just go to scroll, okay, and look at it, you can see how that image scrolls now, and all those other images scroll up as well. But when I do it normally with that fixed position applied, then it kind of gives that cool effect of keeping them all the same. Now, true parallax, on the other hand, looks something more like this. And true parallax is when you have different items scrolling at different speeds. So you can see we're going up and down, and the buildings are not going the same speed as my scroll. That's why it's kind of masking some of these windows down here to see that. And then this person is going down and the moon is going at a different speed. And so it's constantly looking at the scroll position and changing how fast these images move in relation to my scrolling. And that's what we call parallax scrolling. Typically you use this type of item just to make stuff a little bit more flashy and kind of more attractive. This is another one, talks about the history of the World Wide Web and some of the early browsers and what those looked like, and moving into Netscape and animated color. I mean, it's pretty bad. bloggers, WordPress, how things kind of progressed along, Adobe Flash and how it died, talking about that, and Webflow and kind of where everything's at. So kind of a fun little example on parallax scrolling and how that works. The last thing I wanted to show you was how to comment out something. So let's say I'm working on a logo and I don't like what I'm doing there. The way I comment this out in my HTML is I find that section and I do that right there. And oops, that right there. And anything between this less than exclamation, dash dash, and then dash dash greater than is going to be commented out. And you can see how this was turned gray. And so when I come over here and I turn that on, that whole header's gone, right? Now let's say I want to turn off a section of my CSS and comment it out. That's a little bit different. All right, I'm going to go to my hero image, and maybe on this cover I want to turn off this line, or maybe all of my hero image I want to disable. So I'm just going to do a /* and a //. And you can see how that's all been turned gray. And I can refresh that and that disappears. So I use this often when I'm testing and I'm running different lines of code, and I don't want to delete it in case I'll forget it, but I just want to comment something out quickly and test it. Another thing we can use with this is just to kind of help some of our code read a little bit better. And so I could have something up here where I do a //. I could write out structural elements, right? And then I could, put all my structural stuff down here, and then I could have something here that has my navigation elements. And it just makes it a little bit easier to read your CSS or your HTML using some comments and just talking about what everything is, and in case somebody else needs to read it and they can understand that a little bit better.